Hi, everybody. Welcome. Good evening. If you can hear me, you can stop talking. Well, yes, that does fall in my plan. Let me get the slide going here. Just 1 second. Share the screen. Here we go. All right. Welcome everyone to our May meeting. It's a very exciting meeting. I'm so glad to see you all here. As usual, we're going to run through our quick announcements. And then just being the main meeting, we have elections. So hopefully you've all felt long and hard about the wonderful slate of people who have volunteered to help guide us into finish the year and guide us into 2024. Then we have our guest speaker, David Edgley, who's going to discuss Novelty Phalaenopsis. I'm very excited about that. And then we're going to do our show and tell. It says it's first, but it's actually at the end. We've got some amazing stuff here in the room. We've got more stuff on the slides. And then afterwards, for those of us here in the room, we have opportunity table provided by Mitch, as well as a gift card to Float Garden Center. So we'll do that one first. Okay. And the first thing, the most exciting announcement is always we have 2 new members who joined this month. So welcome David Edgley and Eleanor Ramsey. Are either of you here in the room, perhaps online? Well, welcome anyway. Great. We have judging, of course. It's in the other room if you're here in person. They also go to Philoli House and Garden down in Woodside the 3rd Saturday morning, which this month is May 21st. There's also judging up in Sacramento. It is tomorrow night at the Sacramento Society's meeting.
Well, also just a little extra tomorrow night, Santa Clara Valley Orchid Society, they will judge it for the first time ever at 6:10 tomorrow night.
Fantastic.
Down in San Jose.
So maybe a shorter drive for some people.
Yeah.
The next thing, I believe this was discussed last time. Sorry, I missed you all. We are raising money to help the Rudolph Jenny Orchid Library be relocated. As you can see here, the late Rudolph Jenny really worked hard all his life to collect anything he could find about orchids. We are raising money, doing a match program like we did for the conservation program earlier in the year. So the society is going to donate up to $2,000, and we're hoping that members will match those donations. Or we will donate up to $2,000. We'll hope everyone will give a pile of money. So if you do donate, you can either donate through our website, or you can donate directly to the fund, and then just send us your receipt so that we know to match that. There's more information, of course, on our website. So please look into that. You're all here tonight. We hope you'll all join us on next Monday via Zoom. It will be the next combination board and show committee meeting. It will be an exciting board meeting as we do a transfer of the officers. And then, we're starting already to work on orchids in the park. It's coming up in just a couple of months. It will be very exciting. The next month's speaker is going to be Teresa Hill. She's going to talk about complex Papilopediums. We will not be meeting in person in 2 months because it will be the 4th of July. We are making plans for a Zoom meeting, so you can still join in, and then you can still enjoy what other festivities you've got planned for the holiday. We also have the member growing spaces tour going. Dave Vermeyer and Don Naylor are opening their homes on May 13th from 10 to 2. If you are interested, please RSVP to Don. so that how many people are going. There's I don't know about the size.
Are they in the city?
Yes.
Yes, we'll be getting the addresses out. And, you know, I don't know if people really, it'd be nice if you RSVP, but I don't think it's necessary. And we will get the addresses out, just the two of us. So it will be between 10 and 2.
Yeah, Dave lives like near the Panhandle area, and Don lives kind of over near Stonestown. So pretty relatively close to each other. As much street parking as you can find in the city.
Yeah. And given that, consider carpool. Yeah. Thank you, Don and Dave. All right, here is the exciting part, the elections. Let's see, I know my process here. The first thing to ask is if there is anyone else who has a nomination for it at this time. Not seeing any movement, so I will take that as a no. This thing is in the way. Yeah. Okay, now we can see everybody. So we have Faye up for president, Mitch is up for vice president, Eugene is up for treasurer, Carm is up for secretary, Jeff and Stuart are remaining as directors, and Dave and Heidi are joining as directors as well. Thank everyone who has volunteered. Now, I believe I asked if
motion to close nominations.
yes. Are you making the motion?
I'm making the motion.
Making the motion, seconded. Then I.
Hear the train coming.
All in favor?
All in favor? Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed?
Abstentions?
Make a motion to accept the nominees as presented by the nominating committee.
Second. Whatever.
That means to vote those
I
people
like
in.
my acclamation.
Elected by acclamation. Thank you very much. Congratulations to everyone who has volunteered. We are very excited to see what we'll do in the coming year. Thank you very much.
I don't know Eugene or Carm, so are they here?
Yes.
I thought I went through there.
Carm is not here yet.
I think I might have seen Carm online.
Can't see while we're projecting slides. So let's see who's there when we stop sharing.
They can talk.
Yeah.
But they should have voted.
They can still.
Oh yeah, you should double check if anyone's volunteering.
Yeah, we didn't.
Vincent did second one of the motions online, and Carm is online. Thank you,
Oh,
Carm.
okay.
Carm, if you want to unmute and say hello, you're welcome to.
Hello. I'm really glad to be voluntold.
Thank you, Carm.
She was the one that made all the lovely pottery that we had used on the display at POE and had for sale. She runs that studio. Yeah, she's also volunteered to be co-show chair.
Yes. So here are the. Yeah. Okay. Here are the appointed positions we did not need to elect. Carm and Jeff, who's also been past president, will be show chairs. Rhiannon is going to be our newsletter editor. Heidi is staying on as membership chair and being joined by Derek. So, thank you all. Thank you. Yes. Go back.
Yeah.
So there we are. We're also reminding everyone to join Orchid or subscribe to Orchid Digest if you're not yet.
That's Orchid. That's AOS.
Oh, I thought we had Orchid Digest.
We did, but someone took the last one. That's good.
Oh.
I'll send us more.
Oh,
There are pamphlets up here though.
Orchid Digest. Beautiful magazine. Subscribe.
Yeah, quarterly.
And there's pamphlets if you want.
Yeah, we got more
Free,
information.
you can get a sample issue.
And orchiddigest.com. Yeah, we wrote that one. Hopefully it's .com.
You're right.
All right, with that, is in your eyes.
I engage true like that.
Yeah, you're.
Oh,
So, let's see here. Dave has been growing Phalaenopsis forever.
And I'm so tired.
Yeah. He began as a teenager living on a native-based Philippines. He's a hobby grower, he says, but as you'll see, he's got some very impressive credentials here. He's got a greenhouse, which is very crowded, but impressively, he's made several of his own processes. Though he has tilled his fair share of them, tried all the potting materials. He is an accredited AOS judge, a former AOS trustee, the current chair of the judging committee, and treasurer of the International Phalaenopsis Alliance. We're very grateful to have him. And, I will get out of the way. Sure, take it. Yes, I was here on the slides. No.
Speak near the owl.
Speak near the owl. Okay, here we go. So talking about novelty Phalaenopsis, we're going to talk about enjoying novelty Phalaenopsis. It's sort of the, well, I won't say the latest craze, but they've sure taken the orchid world by storm. They're very popular and you can find them almost anywhere except Home Depot and other big box stores, Costco, because they tend to be appealing more to a hobby breeder collector market. We'll see why in a little bit. Okay. Clicker going here. Let's see if. Okay, so here's the agenda. First of all, we're going to talk about what they are, how they're different from standard Phalaenopsis, the species that help put them all together, and we're going to talk about something called dragon tree eagle. Funny name, I know, but it's probably one of the most important stud plants in this whole background. We'll see some pretty pictures of novelty hybrids with dragon tree eagle and then some without as well. Let's see if this works. It did. No, that's backwards. Okay, here. Okay. That's right. There we go. All right. So what are novelty Phalaenopsis? You all can read as well as I can, but they're typically star-shaped, brightly colored, fragrant flowers. You have fewer than standard Phalaenopsis. The sepals and petals are roughly equal in size, so it's not like these big whites with the monster petals. Let's see. Often the flowers are fairly flat. Sometimes the dorsal sepal is hooded a little bit, and they have this interesting little characteristic where sometimes the petals curl in at the margins. Try this again. Yeah, it worked. So one of the attractions of these guys is that their blooming season tends toward summer. It's toward now. They're starting to bloom now. They will bloom pretty much through the fall, which is pretty much opposite of standard Phalaenopsis. The flower spikes bloom successively, which means you don't cut them off. You let them bloom year after year. Now, not every spike blooms every year, but as long as it's green, it has the potential to bloom and give you more flowers. Sometimes the flower spikes are kind of short. They branch, but they arch over large, round, glossy leaves, making a really attractive presentation. And unlike the standards, they're not always well arranged. So here's some differences. I'm going to focus on the novelty phales more. They bloom spring to fall, and the flowering for them is induced by longer days and warmer temperatures, kind of the opposite of your standard Phalaenopsis. They bloom quicker than a standard because pretty much the flower spike's much shorter, so it takes less time to develop. So from the time you see the spike developing, you can probably have flowers in 2 months as opposed to the standards. They are almost always fragrant, which is a real plus. A lot of people like fragrant things. Well, Novelty Phalaenopsis are for you. They have very heavy substance. They're long lasting, a waxy, sometimes glossy texture that's very attractive. And they have small lips. Just thought we'd throw that in there. Okay, so Peter Lynn of Big Leaf Orchids says these are his breeding goals. No, wait a second. I want to go back up. There. Okay, brilliant color. And to get that brilliant color, you have to build on a non-fading yellow base. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Likes the glossy texture, the sweet fragrance, wants to see exotic markings and patterning. A lot of colors. You want to see flower size improved over the parents because most of these guys are pretty small. They're about 2 inches across. And improved plant vigor. A lot of the species in the backgrounds of these guys grow very slowly. So improved vigor would be a very good thing. There we go. Not gonna spend much time on this one, but just to show you what the main building block species are. So when you go looking at these and you start digging into the background, which you can do using Orchid Whiz or the American Orchid Society's Orchid Pro program, you can find out the percentages of what's in there. And just for interest's sake, I put that on the slides. We'll see when they come up here in just a little bit. So to enjoy them, you have to be able to grow them, keep them alive, and hopefully grow them well. You'll see that most of these guys like it fairly shady and warm. And one of the warmest seems to be Tetrascus. Its nighttime temperatures are 75 degrees. Wow, I'd never sleep if it was that way. Anyway, so overall, shady and warm, and not too cold at night. But I've also found that they're very adaptable because in my greenhouse, they don't get 75-degree nights. They're lucky to get 65. But they still reward me with flowers. So breeding characteristics. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but Violacea. You know, we can just skip this part and go on to the pretty pictures. So Violacea. This is Phalaenopsis violacea. It comes in many colors. It has very good shape. It has a wonderful, sweet, spicy fragrance. One of its main drawbacks is that it's a very slow grower, especially the new bluer ones. I think they've been bred with each other a few too many times. But let's see. You only get 1, maybe 2 flowers on a spike. It'd be nice if we could get more, but right now that seems to be the state of affairs. People are breeding for these intense dark colors, so they're doing that selective breeding, and well, let's see, they're not breeding, they're breeding for color more than they are flowers. You can see blue, indigo, pink, deep, magenta, even an albiform. Falbolina. This is what imparts the really nice shape to the novelty hybrids. Once again, they're not large flowers. They can be a little over 2 inches. These guys have a wonderful fragrance. And if it's a true Bolina, it's probably going to smell like Fruit Loops. Eric Christensen, one of the noted taxonomists, wanted to call it the Fruit Loop orchid because it smells so much like Fruit Loops. You can see the fabulous form, like this, see how round the petals are, how much they cover there. It's a beautiful thing. And these, as you can see in the lower left corner, the flowers are beautifully framed against those wonderful large round leaves. And there are color forms in Bolina. There's a new one they're calling Delicata that has the light pink. This is my plant, and I got that at some International Phalaenopsis Alliance symposium several years ago. Frank Smith was giving away free seedlings to everybody that attended. Well, mine bloomed and it looked like that. And I posted it on Facebook on the IPA website or page, and Frank Smith chimed in, "That's awesome, where did you get it?" So I had to tell him the story.
How large are these blooms?
These are roughly 2 inches across. You can see we have a white form, and then we have a bluish form, cerulean. So you can see with these novelty hybrids, they're crossing things back and forth. We'll talk a little more later. You can remake the same hybrid with a different color form and come up with an entirely new color palette. So you won't get bored with novelty Phalaenopsis. Phalaenopsis. This one has a fragrance too. I don't like it. It's sort of a medicine-y, odd smell, and it tends to give that fragrance to its progeny. Some people like it. This ranges in color from red to maroon to brown. You can see brown overlaid brilliant red. This is overlaid on the brilliant yellow. This is where you get that non-fading yellow color that's so important in creating all these colors. As you can see, they can produce a lot of flowers. Ludemaniana, another one that has an interesting fragrance. This is mostly good, although I'm told by Peter Lynn there are a couple of different varieties. One smells good, one smells bad. Flowers look the same, but go figure. This is where you can get wonderful red color. Okay. An important thing to notice is this little guy in the corner, Phalaenopsis pulchra. For many years, that was known as Ludemaniana variety pulchra. It got its own species rank back in the 1990s or so, I think. So it doesn't show up as having many hybrids, but it was used to make one called Ludi violacea. That's been used some 3,000 times in producing. So it's very important, solid, beautiful color. If it's not happy, it won't bloom. It will make keikis. You can have this massive keikis, no flowers. I don't grow that one. Okay, Phalaenopsis amboinensis. Another one that has a fragrance that some people like and some people don't. I was commenting to one guy who loves it, and he thought I was crazy because he just absolutely adores that smell. This one has different color forms, yellow background, white background, but it has the wonderful concentric barring, which it passes on to its progeny. Makes for wonderful patterns. And you can see it can be quite floriferous. See, one thing that I want to convey to you is that you might see a big pile of leaves with just a couple of flowers, but give it time. Let it grow more of those spikes that you don't cut off, and you can get lots and lots of flowers. Phalaenopsis, with a shape only a mother could love, huh? However, my friend Peter Lynn says that this is really the unsung hero when it comes to novelty breeding. It breeds heavy substance. It breeds wide petals, which is one of the things we want to see in novelty Phalaenopsis. One of its drawbacks is the flowers have very short flower spikes, and sometimes the flower is right up next to the leaf. On the other hand, it does produce a lot of flowers. The one on the upper left here had something like 24 flowers on 16 flower spikes. So just about 1 per, 1.5 per. But it does produce a lot of flowers because it produces a lot of flower spikes. Okay, we'll get this figured out. Phalaenopsis doesn't refer to the flowers because they're only about 2 inches across, but it refers to the plant. Maybe some of you have seen it. Maybe a lot of you have seen Phalaenopsis. The plant in the center had over 500 flowers on it when it was awarded. The longest flower spike was about 1.5 meters. That's long. So what do you get when you breed with Phalaenopsis? Well, you get large plants, you get slow growing plants, you get a lot of flowers, but you also get very pendant flower spikes.
What's the environment for that? I'm trying not to kill another couple of those.
Well, I have a couple in my greenhouse that seem to do okay. The temperatures in the summer get warm. In the winter, my day temperatures probably don't go below about 70. My night temperatures are in the low 60s.
And when you say they get warm, what do you mean?
Warm, I would say, well, okay, this is California. I'm in Washington, you know, the northwest corner way up there near Canada. Oh, yeah. It's cold up there. My greenhouse is very exposed and it's like a car in a parking lot, so it can get 90-ish.
And bright light?
No, well, so there's some disagreement on that. I've heard people say you give it a lot of light to bloom. I don't, I give it the same shade that I give all the rest of my Phalaenopsis, and it still blooms every year. Now, Thalgigantea does an interesting thing. It will put out a new flower spike. It'll get all the way down there and it will stop. And it will wait 9 months to a year before it'll actually get flowers on it. It's like it produces the flower spike one season and blooms the next. Go figure. So if you're breeding with Thalgigantea, you can expect large plants, but more flowers.
Patience.
And yeah, you do need patience.
But those leaves are like feet.
They can be, well, mine are only about, I think my largest is less than 2 feet on a leaf. Valmerii, cute little thing. It's a small flower, about 4 centimeters, but it also can produce a lot of flowers and a beautiful red color. So that's important in the background of these Novelty Phalaenopsis. Probably my new favorite species is Phaltetraspis. Talk about variety. This is just page 1 of 2 for different varieties. It's very easy to grow. It's easy to establish. And once established, will bloom 3 times a year with 3 to 5 flowers on a spike. And you don't cut the spikes off because they keep reblooming. Look at the colors. You have white with purple spots. This color form, C1, is what they call it, but that's those white petals and sepals that just show up anywhere, anytime on any flower.
So it's not consistent.
It is absolutely not consistent. Totally inconsistent. You can see over here, okay, 2 petals. So over here, it looks like the dorsal might even be white. Here you have a white dorsal, here you have white there. It's possible for every one of those flowers to be different on a single flower spike. And as a judge, as an AOS judge, I don't mind that. That's the species, that's what it does. So we judge it accordingly. That's what it does. So we don't take any points off of that. So it's purple, blue, indigo, maroon, magenta, white, and remember we saw purple spots on the previous one. There's some deep purple spots. There are brown spots. Greens, indigo, almost yellow, and that coffee brown color. That's a new form. So just imagine any hybrid you've made that has the Tetraspis in the background, you can get another color form, remake the cross, and come up with a lot of new colors. Now, up here in the top, it says Tetraspis synonym speciosa. The battle's over, temporarily anyway. Speciosa is a synonym, which means the real name is Tetraspis. However, I recommend don't change your tags because taxonomists are still discussing it. Somebody's bound to change it. All right, dragon tree eagle. Look at that color, brilliant yellow color. It really is that yellow. You combine the brilliant yellow with the red and you get this amazing non-fading color. This is kind of like what's a famous racehorse or something. It sired a lot of wonderful progeny. Well, this is what it is. It was registered in 2004. Since then, we have over 4 generations and 830 total progeny. That's a hard number to come up with, but that's pretty amazing. It says it is. Here's where I put the information on each one of these, giving you the approximate percentage of what comprises the hybrid. This had 8 flowers on 3 flower spikes, so that's a pretty good count, 3, 3, and 2. Now we're going to look at some of the wonderful things it's done in its breeding. Oh, by the way, here's a red form of dragon tree eagle. So if you've gone through and made all these wonderful yellow and red hybrids, you can remake it now with the red. These things, a lot of these are available as stem propagations to hobby growers, and so people in their backyard can be making all kinds of good things. Isn't that amazing color? That's fabulous. And once again, these are all fragrant. They're blooming in the summer when the rest of your phales are out of bloom. What you have here, it shows 42% violation. Looks to me a lot better than the violations we saw on the previous page. How about that one? Beautiful color. I think the color in the middle, that bluish purple in the center, is probably from Blue Maniana. You can see the Venosa contributing to all those other colors. Beautiful thing from Eric Gu down in the Phoenix area. Unfortunately, Eric is not breeding anymore. He's given up on his orchids. I don't know, I guess he just didn't have the real disease. Like the rest of us, tough to walk away from it. So remember back in 2020, and right about the time that they normally have March Madness, we were all locked down in our homes, doing not much of anything, ordering takeout. The AOS had sort of a March Madness thing, and they had plants in the brackets and voted and whatever. Well, this is the guy that won it all. This was the top winner of that. For those of you pleurophthallic growers, what do you think about these? Phalaenopsis with caudae? Well, maybe not, but don't grow a cold. Okay, the color is actually coming through pretty good here. So one of the problems with breeding these is you get a green flower with red on top, but it looks brown. Who wants a brown flower? They're not quite as attractive, but that's just what you get when you breed these things. But it's interesting to see the variety within a single cross. Next page, this shows you what these guys can do with a few years of growing. With those big 2-inch flowers, you can estimate the plant is somewhere between 16 and 20 inches across, which takes up a good bit of room. However, you don't have the big tall flower spikes that are getting up into your lights or interfering with something else. There we go. And this is an award of quality from that cross. So an award of quality is something the American Orchid Society gives to a new cross, a new hybrid that appears to be setting a new standard, something that's better than what the previous standard was. And it takes at least 12 plants blooming, at least one of which have received an American Orchid Society or AOS award. How about this one? High-Lows Sensation, the Dragon Tree Eagle hybrid. You can see the amazing color in here. This one has something interesting in it, Corningiana, which is a very dark colored Phalaenopsis species, also fragrant. So just imagine every single one of these is probably wonderfully fragrant. Show you the variation. This is from bloom to bloom. This plant was shown twice within a year with different flowers on it and different colors. Don't know if it's a photographer, but I just found that very interesting. So your environmental conditions, the temperature, all makes a difference on how these flowers will look. Tingshin or Tangshin fly eagle. Rumor has it they actually meant it to be flying eagle, but something got lost in translation. But you can see Tetraspis by Dragon Tree Eagle. You can get Dragon Tree Eagle, you can get any number of different Tetraspis, so you can make the hybrid again and again. Pretty sure these two did not come from the same seed pod. And here's some more. Look at the brilliant color. The flat form, and you can see some of the effects of Tetraspis here, where the petals are not uniformly colored. This one looks like it has a bright yellow. High-Lows Giga Eagle, half Gigantea. The plant flower right here won the Herb Hager Award for 2020. Now, the Herb Hager Award is a special annual award given by the American Orchid Society to the best Phalaenopsis of the year. So that's the big winner. It's half Gigantea, and you can see by these pictures that there are more flowers. Nice round shape, and there are more flowers. So y'all can do your research. If you're interested in a certain hybrid, find out how much Gigantea is in the background. If it's half gigantea, you're probably going to have a big plant, but you will have lots of flowers. There's a plant. That's phyllo. So anytime you see a hybrid with the name phyllo, that's done by Peter Lynn in the Dallas, Texas area. Phyllo is his beloved Pomeranian. It passed away 2 or 3 years ago. It's been replaced by another Pomeranian named Pax. Is it cute? How about this one, Kingfisher? So a lot of these people tend to put their nursery names into the plant name. Kingfisher Nursery is from Pat Van Adricum up in Victoria, BC, Canada. Hybrid that he made. I was at the show where this one was awarded, and it had such color, you could see it from across the room. If you walk in the door and I want to go look at that flower. It was that compelling. Well, it only had 2 flowers. It was probably a first blooming plant with 2 flowers. And it got an award of quality. Let's see where it is. It's in there somewhere. You can see the beautiful leaves. The flowers are right down on top of the leaves. I think it makes a beautiful frame for the flowers. And here's another one that got a cultural award. But you can see how many flowers you can get on one of these plants. I put this one up here to show it a couple of reasons. One, it shows you that they aren't that well arranged, and there's a slightly different color palette. We have introduced Phalaenopsis into it as well. Yes, question?
Question. So the Hawaiian growers, when they want to do cultural awards or other things, they'll stop the plant from blooming by keeping them warm and not dipping the temperature down for a few years. Guys also do that, or will they, because they're sequential, they'll keep their spikes long enough time to blooming to get the cultural.
So you can't keep a novelty from blooming by keeping it warm, because that's what makes it bloom.
Okay.
The standards, I know the Taiwanese will keep them warm like 78 degrees for years and not let them bloom. That wouldn't work with the novelty type. Different species in the background behave differently.
Would cool work?
Cool would make them unhappy.
That's what happened to mine.
I understand that.
Right. So
I don't know why you want to keep it from blooming.
right. But remember, since these flower spikes stay on the plant year after year, they will just keep blooming and keep getting it bigger and better. And by the time you get, I'd say 5 or 6 flower spikes on it, it's going to put on really quite a nice show.
On the leaves, I mean, they're so pristine and green and like dark green. Does that mean that's in low light?
Yes. Those dark leaves are because they're grown in low light.
How low is low?
How low is low? Well,
Is it like this?
no, not quite like this. Okay, so I used my hand. I used my hand to cast a shadow on my plants, and a fuzzy shadow, a fairly indistinct shadow, is pretty good. Not Cattleya light. No. How about that one? Orange with spots and bars, whatever. A lot of gigantea in this one, and you can see you have more flowers. It looks like, to me, this one's hanging in a basket, and the flower spike is coming out and maybe trying to droop, just like the gigantea wants to do.
One brings up a question. Are these close enough to the other Phalaenopsis to recognize across there?
Most of the time, yes.
And the gigantea and the big white Phalaenopsis.
Well, so a lot of the early breeding, early century breeding was done with the small colorful species onto the big whites because they wanted to introduce color, and these were the only things that had the color. Back then, they didn't understand that your whites were probably tetraploid, these were probably diploid, and you're creating mules.
Yeah.
But I think they figured that out, and through some chance tetraploids with some of these things. We've broken through that barrier, and now almost all the large flowered Phalaenopsis are tetraploids, and they have a lot of color as well. This one, I love the color on this one. It looks like a super duper wonderful Phalaenopsis balena. Beautiful color. Yes.
Weren't some of these species also qualified as deridus used to be before the taxonomists got around to butchering them?
They did, but nothing that we're talking about today.
Okay.
We're mostly in the subsection Polychylus,
Okay.
which doesn't include Volcaria. Right. This one is gorgeous. I've seen this one bloom before. There's a guy in North Carolina named Mike Mims. You may have seen him on Facebook. He has Blue Ridge orchids, something like that. But he grew this, bloomed it with, I think, half a dozen flowers, beautifully displayed. And they were darker, a lot more red patterning on it. I ordered one of those from Peter Lynn last week. It's just too pretty. This is my plant. I picked it up at an IPA symposium at Huntington quite a few years ago. It was just a little tiny plant in maybe a 2-inch pot, and then finally grew it up and bloomed it and got an award on it. I don't know what happened with the photographer because it's not really that purple in the middle. That's more what it looks like in my greenhouse. Okay, another very famous dragon tree eagle hybrid. Now look at the parents again. Balena by dragon tree eagle. There's lots of Balena around. There's lots of dragon tree eagle around. So people can make these crosses again and come up with different results. But to me, that looks like a bright yellow Phalaenopsis balena. Beautiful thing. And then, pretty sure this one was made with a cerulean of Phalaenopsis. I put this up here because it shows you the variety that can come from a single cross. All three of these got AMs. Everyone's different.
That looked like it has a skull in the center.
Well, I guess that is interesting. That's the anther cap. That does look intriguing. I had never noticed that before. And it also received an award of quality. And there you can see the variety you can get from a single cross. Okay. That's pretty amazing color. Another Erigu hybrid, Sweet Shadow, which is LD's Bear Queen by Sweet Trinity. A couple of names. Remember Shadow Trinity. Just file that away. This one also won the Herbaker Award back then. It has 3 flowers on it. Gorgeous thing. Flowers are a little bit small at 4.8 centimeters, but beautiful, beautiful thing. And here we have Trinity and Shadow. Sweet Trinity and Shadow. And that is Eric. Look at the color on that, the intensity of the color. Isn't that fantastic? And look at this one says 4 flowers on 1 inflorescence. That's what I think I'd like to see if the breeders in Novelty Phalaenopsis aim for. More flowers on a single flower spike. So now you have 6 flower spikes, 4 flowers each. Whew, that's a bunch of flowers. And look at the same building block species, Venosa, Violacia, Balena, with Maniata, a little bit of Amphoidensis. This one kind of struck my fancy because it's interesting. It's tall. The petals are kind of round. I like that. And it has the interesting little, for lack of a better term, caudae on the sequence. This was, once again, you see Pilo in there. And Orchid Connection was from Peter's good friend, Mayor Moses, longtime orchid grower and breeder who passed away this last year. Okay, this one I put up because of the color. Once again, the color palette on these things is almost infinite. They're not all reds and yellows, purples and greens, and a lot of interesting things. How about this one? He took Eldest Bear King crossed with Manny. I would have named this something like Who'da Thunk It. I mean, what, you're walking through your greenhouse, you see this beautiful yellow thing, and you see this scrawny little, somewhat black flower, and you think, I wonder what would happen. Well, that's what happened, and you got some really interesting flowers. I'm not sure if these are my favorite, but it shows, again, some of the variety that can come from a single cross. And he also received an award of quality. Here's one that Frank Smith down in Florida made recently. It is Kroll's Red Dragon, Ken Avant, crossed by Dragon Tree Eagle. Now, Ken Avant is this one in the middle. I'm not sure all these are an improvement over Ken Avant. We'll talk more about that one on the next slide. So that's a pretty nice flower. There's a pretty nice flower. This one's a little different too. So Ken Avant is a fairly complex hybrid that looks like a novelty. It has some large whites in the background. You can see it's kind of like a sweep the kitchen cross. I have this in bloom in my greenhouse right now. One typical flower spike that's maybe 15, 16 inches tall. I have 10 flowers and several buds on a branched inflorescence. You don't get that on these. Trouble is, Ken Avant almost never breeds. Well, in fact, there's only been one cross registered. Guess what it is? Kroll's Red Dragon. I think Frank deserves a medal for getting, I think, a breed. But I'm not sure it's an improvement. So once again, award of quality. Look at the color on some of these. Like the color of a Bing cherry, just beautiful. Here's one without Dragon Tree Eagle. It has another interesting species called Fluorescensis, which is a small, unimpressive cream to green flower. Not large flowers, but that really is green, isn't it? It's pretty, I wish I could find this one in the grocery store. I'd buy it. Another lovely, lovely thing here. It has a Michelitzii in it. You can see the flower spikes are kind of short. This one's grown on a cork slab, probably down at the Huntington Gardens. I think James P. Folsom was a previous director of Huntington Gardens, and this was named in his honor. But I think I find that so graceful. I like the green margins and the form, just very appealing and attractive. Another one without Dragon Tree Eagle, but a few other things, Gigantea, so you get more flowers. And look at the color, wonderful color. Gigantea seems to breed a lot of red. The color on Phal Gigantea, the species, are little bumps of color, and they can range from red to purple. And I think that's probably where we get a lot of our red Phalaenopsis today. The larger reds, the harlequins, comes from Gigantea. How about this one? Amazing color with only 3 species in it: Venosa, Violacia, and Ebuenensis. You mix them up, toss them in a pot, stir them up, and look what you get. Isn't that fun? It's probably in a 6-inch nursery can, so it's just a baby. Once again, half Gigantea, a little bit of Marii, and some Venosa. So you get the bright, unfading yellow, the brilliant red, smallish flowers, but lots of them. And then, of course, we have other colors. That's that amazing color. I would like to see more flowers on this one, but that is truly gorgeous, gorgeous color. With just Bellina, Violacia, and Tetraspis. Who knows, maybe they use the blue forms with all of those. They don't tell you that. Maybe it's a trade secret. Once again, more Tetraspis, Violacia. How about this one? I saw this one on Peter Lynn's website and said, I gotta have it. So I bit the bullet and ordered another one. But beautiful, beautiful blue color. What I found really interesting when I started digging into the background of this one, Dragon Tree Eagle shows up 4 times. And yet here we are with this incredible blue flower. And it has Javanica. Anybody know what Phal Javanica looks like? It's a small, well, I won't say unimpressive, but it's not a big flower, and it looks a whole lot like that. However, there's a form with a blue lip, and I'm guessing they may have read that. So I know a couple of people that are breeding for blue Phalaenopsis. They're having a lot of, having some success, a lot of failures, but they're trying to find a path forward. And it seems like if there are red colors in, that they're red anthocyanin, it can block the production of the blue color. So you have to find something without that. And in this case, you have a brown flower with a blue lip. So that seems to let the blue come through and even contribute some from its blue lip. Okay, remember our friend Michelitzii, the white one that was kind of so in shape, close to the plant. This is what it does. A very pretty flower. And you can see the flowers are right next to the plant. See the veins? That's also a characteristic of Phal Michelitzii. So Michelitzii has a very interesting characteristic, at least in the early generations, maybe first or second generations. It can block the red pigment from coming through, or it can allow the red pigment to come through. People breeding for blues are using Michelitzii because it does tend to block the red pigment. How about that? Thomas Gigantea, Gigantea. All those wonderful species up there, Emboinensis, Phalaenopsis. So wonderful patterns. I think the patterns come from the Emboinensis and the Gigantea, and you should get a lot of flowers on these when they grow up. The thing about Novelty Phalaenopsis, we see a lot of awards given to small plants with 1 or 2 flowers on them. And I think what's so compelling is the color. They are just so darn attractive, and people can't resist it. You see this thing in front of you, the flowers are big enough, so heck, let's award it. It would be, my personal opinion is that I'd rather see it come back in another year or 2 after it's had a chance to grow up and get really impressive. Of course, you all know that the more flowers you have, the smaller they are, right? So you bring in a plant, big plant with 2 flowers on it, they're going to be bigger. Bring it in with 2 dozen flowers, the flowers will be smaller. But what does it show? Here is an old primary cross between Gigantea and Violaceae. They use the alba forms. There is a Gigantea alba, which has none of the dark spots. It just has yellow spots or green spots. It's lacking the red pigment. You can see the nice shape. You can see the lot of flowers. And you can also see what Gigantea wants to do. These are, it just wants to droop. Back in 2005 at the Redlands International Orchid Festival in Homestead, Florida, Joseph Wu came to town and brought this cross. He received an award of quality for Joy Spring Canary. Lots of variety, and you can see in this photo some with red color and a lot without. Most likely due to the influence of Phalaenopsis Michelitzii. What do we have here? Just Violaceae bellina, Tetraspis, Rudimaniana, and you get this wonderful, well, hot pink, Barbie pink, beautiful flowers. So occasionally we get to see these awards of quality, AQs, but it's not often that we get to see a whole batch of first bloom seedlings. Mike Mims from North Carolina allowed me to use these pictures, and you can see we have a lot of Emboinensis, a lot of Michelitzii, and not so much of all the others. So what do we have here? We have nice broad petals from the Micholitziae and maybe the Violacea. We have the wonderful yellow color, probably complements of Ambonensis and Micholitziae blocking beds. But look at, I think my favorite one, the bunch. You can see once again the flowers are on very short spikes from the Micholitziae. So if you don't want long spikes, you can get something with a lot of Micholitziae in it, and your flowers will be right next to your plant. And you won't have to worry about them growing up and interfering with your light setup if that's what you have. Unfortunately, this one apparently is no longer in the land of the living. It came down with some kind of crud, Mike said, and we just finally had to toss it. And some more, a few that do have some red color. Once again, those beautiful concentric bars complements of Phalaenopsis. I think we're just about there. There are places where you can get these. Big leaf orchids in Texas. Norman has some. Mike Mims has some. He's hard to find except he's on Facebook. And I don't know, I haven't seen much out of Carrie lately. Orchid Files, she's on Facebook, and that's usually where she sells most of her things. But all these folks import Novelty Phalaenopsis from Taiwan. And I think that's about it. Thank you for putting up with this on. Questions? Yes.
Yeah, one. So the dragon tree has really produced saturated art shades and violet colors onto it. I think that breeding's kind of reached the maturity stage. And I see, you know, Mike Mims and others with the green and the bright emerald greens and the blues.
Right.
But where do you see the next direction in the novelty phales? Do you think it's going back to the standard phales, getting maybe some of the diurnal deciduous phales, some of the African ones that are now coming onto the market, the Madagascans? Where do you see the next push going in to the breeding?
Well, the blue is by no means exhaustive.
Oh, absolutely.
There are people going for blues, and I also see polyploidy coming into it. I expect to see most everything we looked at here were diploids.
Yeah.
Except for the Pearl's Red Dragon and the Kenavin. I think people are going to be treating those, breeding with tetraploid versions. We're going to see bigger flowers, and at that point, they'll be compatible breeding with other things like your big whites, your any other standard phale. So I think that's going to be a big push.
You don't think the African ones are going to make much of an impact? The small little micro miniature ones that are now diploids and coming on?
I haven't seen any that. Haven't heard anything about it. Most of these are the Indo-Pacific types. Yeah. And well, Catraspis is actually more Indian Ocean, the Nicobar Islands. Well, we'll see what happens. I have an Arangus Hildebrandt that I'd love to. It has 3 millimeter flowers. I don't know how you pollinate it, but to me that's intriguing because it has dozens of flowers on spike. Yes.
Actually, I have 3 questions. Sorry.
Okay,
one, I noticed that one was mounted. So do you suggest mounting them as that was, or in a pot? Second, you talked about the warmth. Can you grow them on a heating pad to increase warmth? And third, what about Phalaenopsis virus? Because there seems to be a lot of trouble with Phalaenopsis virus, especially with plants that come from Taiwan.
Well, that's a different program, but yes, heating pads are very helpful, especially with small plants, but for any plants, yes. Growing them on a slab wouldn't probably work for me because I don't have quite enough humidity. You need humidity to keep the roots happy. So night humidity is very important growing these things. Night humidity. This gets into the program, so give me 3 minutes. These are all cam plants. So cam plants means the stomata open at night for the gas exchange to absorb the CO2, release the oxygen, and they close during the day to conserve moisture. So the day humidity isn't quite as important as the night humidity. Well, it naturally rises anyway.
Do you water at night then for them?
Sometimes I water late in the day, sure. Or well, just spray my greenhouse down really well. I have a tiny greenhouse, 10 feet by 12 feet. It's not, you know, not the size of a big car, just, and it's jam-packed. Other questions? Thank you. Sit down.
Do we want to do in the room or do we want to do it online?
What?
Do you want to do it in the room?
Start in the room or online?
Why don't we do virtual first?
Which one?
Yeah, online.
The slides first? Okay. We're going to start our sharing of the show and tell. Microphone closer. Okay. Do you want to sit here?
Yeah, that would be.
Okay.
They're like this.
Yeah.
You haven't got the show and tell up. That's not. Okay, well, all right. We're starting with Judy Carney's absolutely spectacular Dendrobium linguiforme, which she's growing outside in a covered area in Petaluma. That's just an amazing bloom on that plant. Yeah, wait, this isn't. The order is screwed up, but I'll deal with it. I mean, how did that happen? This is. Okay. This is Roberta Fox's Dendrochilum, which is now a collagenate. All the dendrochilums have become collagenates. For reasons unknown to me. Coccineum, which means scarlet, as you can see the wonderful color on this plant, which is from the Philippines, but grown at elevation, so it doesn't need all that much warmth. So here's Roberta's Dryadilla zebrina, which, as she says, is from South America. It grows, it likes wet mountain forest, and whoever named it wasn't looking at the same kind of animal that I think of as a zebra, because these to me have spots, not stripes. But it's a tiny plant. Those flowers are a ½ inch or so. And it would be a good companion for Dracula's. It licks that same kind of not very light and very humid conditions, also cool. Here's Roberta's Ophrys cerestes from the Mediterranean area. It's terrestrial. These are commonly known as the bee orchids because it looks like a bumblebee, which is what pollinates it. Here's her Telemitra nuda, which is Australian terrestrial. These are also known as enamel orchids. The petals are so shiny. It's just a beautiful terrestrial.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the only one that has the only true blue pigment in the orchid family, correct?
It's the only one I know of, certainly. I mean, it is really blue.
And it's the only one there, and it's nearly impossible to grow it in this hemisphere.
Yeah, Roberta's growing these things that I thought nobody could grow. I mean, I have ordered some things from Australia that came and died. So she's really done a wonderful job with those terrestrials.
Well, in the same way as the Europeans. Exactly.
Maybe you should come and give us a talk, Roberta. Here's Jeff's Leptodes bicolor, which is named for its color. As you see, it's a little Brazilian species. There are only 10 Leptodes. This one is the most common one. It's from the Mata Atlantica region of Brazil. And Jeff is showing two different forms of it. The one on the right looks like it got treated and is a tetraploid now. Here's Jeff's Maxillaria memoria Ben Berliner, which is a primary hybrid of Tenuifolia variabilis. Both of those species of Maxillaria are from Central America. Well, Mexico is northern down to Panama. And they are fairly forgiving about conditions to grow in. I think, are you growing it intermediate, Jeff?
Yeah.
Jeff, are you growing that intermediate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave's asking you a question about plants. Okay.
What's your temperature you're growing it at?
Oh, it's the warm greenhouse.
Oh, it's warm. Okay.
Well, it is one green, that's the medium. It's all relative.
Okay. Then here's Jeff's Rincostelli cervanticii, which is a Mexican species. It used to be Alemoglossum, but that name has been ditched for Rincostelli. It's an epiphytic species which grows cool. Dave Hermeyer shows us his Dendrobium nobile type, which has an awful lot of flowers on it, which is kind of what nobile means. The term means noble or grand. And this is really certainly a grand specimen. Here's Dave's Cattleya jongiana, which was a rare species from a particular area in Brazil. It has been very popular, though, in cultivation and for vendors to grow, because it has actually not one of those gives us quite the angle to show how flat the flowers are. The shape is just wonderful. Here's Dave's Pleione formosanas, which he has planted out in his garden, so they must overwinter there. They're supposed to have a dry rest in the winter. And certainly this is a wonderful blooming of those. Susan Anderson shows us her Bulbophyllum falcatum standing tall. The falcatum means sickle-shaped, which refers to the rachis of the blossoms there. The species is from tropical West Africa and grows warm. Here's her Cattleya bonanza queen panamint, which is a complex hybrid of 8 different Cattleya species, or actually more than 8, and most of which grow as epiphytes high in trees. So it likes it warm. And Susan Anderson's Mysticidum Brevane. This is a tiny plant. The flowers aren't even a half an inch across. And there are 10 species of Mysticidums. They're African epiphytic species. They grow cool to warm and put on a really impressive show for a tiny, tiny plant. Here's Fred Anderson's Phragmipedium Jerry Lee Fisher, which is a hybrid from Bessiae, cavaceae, and longifolium. It's half Bessie, as you can see from the shape of it. So all of those species are from Peru and Ecuador. And this is his Frag Humboldtii, which is from Mexico down through Guatemala in very wet mountain forests. And as he says, he grows it sitting in a little saucer of water. If you see these growing in situ, they're generally on hillsides where there's water running down the hill. Here's Jan Anderson's Cattleya Irene Holquin Spring Beauty, which is another complex hybrid. It's about half Mossier, which is from Venezuela, another warm growing Cattleya. Here's her Maxillaria fletcheriana, which is from the northern part of South America, epiphytic in very wet mountain forests. It grows cool to warm. This one looks like Colmenara wildcat to me, as she said. It's hybrids that were created by McClellan's, for those of you who remember McClellan Orchids. It's a local grower and hybridizer. Vince Pietro Martire shows us this Cymbidium. If anyone knows what its name is, he would like to know. So it's quite floriferous, it sounds like, grown in his backyard. Is Vince on, or does somebody know where his backyard is? Is he in San Francisco or where? No one knows, okay. Here's his Masdevallia pink mandarin.
He's in San Francisco.
He is in San Francisco, thank you. Also grows outside in a shady part of his yard. And his Oncidium Kegeljanii, which grows outdoors. It's always nice to know things of plants that will grow outside in San Francisco. And this is a lovely Oncidium. Patty Bow shows us Bulbophyllum longissimum, which is named for the length of its petals. She grows this in a terrarium because it likes it warm and humid. This is the Arangus ariotiana that our speaker mentioned, which also grows in a terrarium. It's a Madagascan plant. No, actually, it's from the Comoros, which is near Madagascar. Here's Patty's Phalaenopsis schilleriana, which she grows mounted. I wondered why the breeders, the small orchid, small Phalaenopsis, you didn't mention schilleriana at all in the breeding of those. I was curious why. Because this has been used, it has 16 generations of progeny, so it's been used a lot in hybridizing. It's from the Philippines. The warm epiphytic grows high on the trunks of trees. Here's my Anacamptis papilionaceae, which is a terrestrial in Sicily. This is an in situ plant. The papilionaceae means butterfly. We call it, it's commonly known as a pink butterfly plant. And Ophrys lutea, also in situ in Sicily, with a landscape photo to show you the kind of area that grows in. And all of those shrubs in there have thorns. Every single thing. I mean, there would be these beautiful blooming trees. If you got close to them, they'd bit you. So they're all protecting themselves from whatever is eating things there. And no one submitted anything for pet parade, but Peaches, this is, he's a smart cat, and I think he knows that suitcase means I'm moving away. So if I didn't feel bad enough about leaving him, this is what happened.
All right, and we're going to switch to the room. So let me get this going.
Start on the end here with all of these adorable little Paphia petalums.
All in the Maudii type, some with the Phalaenopsis in the background, such as these.
Oh, that
has Phalaenopsis in the background. Oh yeah, so
You're standing in front of the.
Oh. There we go.
You're good.
Okay. Should we name all of these? This is Wardii. That's the Wardii. This is, who brought these anyway?
Tom Herrick.
Hey, Tom.
Asenodontum. Sorry about that. And Barbatum. Variety nigrans.
Tom, did you want to say anything?
No, it just.
Sorry, all yours?
I didn't fill out the form, I forgot.
They're adorable. This is Hynanensis, excuse me, that's an island by Taiwan. Oh, Sugakulii. One of my favorites, actually. That's a beauty.
Well, it gives you the big petals on the Maudii. It's one of the founding species of Maudii, correct? Okay.
I don't know. No, that's Delenatii, the pink one.
Maudii and the others, the three founding species that made the Maudii perhaps.
Pink one and this is Nivium, the little white one here.
Nivium. So that's in the Phalaenopsis group.
Isn't really cute. So how do you grow these all in the same place in the same conditions?
Yeah, I've got a small grow room. I keep the humidity, between 75 and 80.
Yeah, and the heat too, probably.
No, not the heat as much. I've only, the Niviums are probably the only ones that really need the heat.
Okay, well, these.
The Maudii types do not need the heat compared to the multiflorals of the complex.
Yeah, the multi-leaf one should be warmer. I don't let it get much less than 50 million.
Yeah, well, you certainly did a good job. They're all, the leaves and everything just looks just lovely on all of them. So here's a
under LED lights.
Larry and Roy brought Path de Perle, which is Delenatii, very variety any color by primulum. Variety purpurescence. How it gets its color. I'm not very steady. Okay, you're steadier than I am.
I'm a little steadier, yeah.
Larry, Roy, do you want to say anything?
Okay, this is Phalaenopsis pantherina. Oh, okay, like panther. Brought in by Jason. And here we have from Larry and Roy, Warwickshire indigo blue.
So this is Berentiana
no, it's Encyclia cochleata by Berentiana A12. No.
Yeah, so that's Berentiana background. This gives you the beautiful there. This actually got one of this cross actually got nominated for one of the best cattleyas last year. Fantastic cross, fantastic. One of these, one I'd always like to grow myself.
Yeah, the color is amazing on that.
Yeah, it really shows you
the
cochleata, and even though it doesn't have color in the petals, when bred, it gets deeply saturated to the other parent. Problem is, being that it's an encyclia, it produces mules. Beautiful mules, but still mules, unfortunately. Beautiful mules.
You probably don't need to lift that. This is Cymbidium medicated guru. It's a Tigrina hybrid. Medicated guru, what a name. I love that one.
Yeah, I love what they wrote.
Well, you didn't name it.
I didn't name it. I looked at it just 1991 by someone.
So did you find out why it's called?
No, I don't know the person.
All right. Here we have an adorable, you want to just leave it there?
Yeah.
Another Phalaenopsis hieroglyphica. A bunch of little flowers. This one must be one of the miniatures. Okay, back here we have Cattleya intermedia.
Penn Valley.
Penn Valley, which got an
Which
award
is-
of merit from the
Which is one of the cursed plants. If any of us know the breeding of it, is not an intermediate. It's intermedia by Purpurata, but it was awarded as such, and so you cannot change it. But it's a curse. That's why it's called the cursed plant. Cursed.
Okay, then Mitch brought
The Belina, yeah, the Chinese ground orchid.
what?
The Chinese ground orchid, the Belasias. They're little.
I don't know anything about those.
They're terrestrials from Sichuan province in southern China, commonly grown, not the easiest to get established. I just bought this last weekend at the Sacramento show. So you can grow them easily there.
Interesting.
They grow really easy here too.
Yeah.
You grow them, Chuck?
Yep, you want one?
Yeah, sure.
So this is kiwi Hapstidzyganum. So this is a Hapsia to a Prominia. So the Hapsia juncea, which is the blue, the Prominia xanthina, which gives you that yellow, and the zygo. This gives you the yellow line breeding of the zygos from Lauren Batchman, which is starting to be a parent of mine as I get more into the intergeneric Psychopetalums. One of its parents is Fandango. The parent right there, pure zygo.
This one.
Fandango.
Doesn't have much of a fragrance.
Not when it's not hot.
I'm happy to say that.
Are these on the?
And
Any of these on the opportunity table?
Yeah.
this is Mitch's, my Carantii, Pania, Kayla Langley, a species I know nothing about.
It's Madagascan. I love it for its heavy fragrance. I actually got this off of Shawnee last year, who said she couldn't really smell it. And I've shown it to half the people that can smell heavy orange fragrance and half that can smell nothing at all, showing the beauty of human evolution and the variability of scent genetics. So I implore you to come up here and see which half of the population you're on.
Oh, you made it to see which half of the population you're on. I'm not going.
No.
Okay.
No, well, we have 2 out of 3.
Okay, Okay, this is Mitch's Patnera.
General JP versus Hart. It comes from the watermelon line. This comes from Horus, which gives you, when Horus Maximus bred with heavy yellow, it gives you a 25% that are heavy variation of color. This watermelon color is very unique. If this is our breeding, this is the vision of our mother plant, and this shows you the beauty of Horus breeding.
Okay. Evan Brenner brought his Mosnavalia coccinea green tree. This is obviously the alba form of coccinea. Has slight yellow on the ends of the tips. We have a couple of Silogeny Morianas. It's time for them to bloom now with their pristine white and gold with the gold in the lips. These are from Vietnam originally, the Morianas. Yeah. John Nadler brings us Epidendron Ross Newman, which is Parkinsonianum baculata. Very fragrant. This one's very fragrant too. Okay, in the back there is my Vernacular Vietnamensis, which is from the mountains in Vietnam, so it's a fairly cool grower, which is good for me. This is a Vanda hybrid. It's called K. Chatham. It's a hybrid of Rogaliana and tricolor. It's growing, which I grow high up in the intermediate greenhouse. This is my Bulbophyllum truncati, which is a Vietnamese species. Its name is the name of the man who is growing that truncat. I grow it in an intermediate greenhouse. It's brilliant orange flowers. I think they're really set off by the burgundy, which the lights in here kind of wash it out, but the leaves are very burgundy on the underside, and the stem is too. This is my Cattleya intermedia alba, which is really the real thing. The true, really, the true intermedia. True. And the back here is my Dendrobium hancockii, which is a cool grower, and it has a lot more buds. It'll really put out a lot of flowers when it blooms. I don't know if you remember last year, Mary sent a picture of hers that she had, which is as big as she was, covered in flowers. It's amazing. And last is my little Paphiopedilum rusticissima, which I thought was just too cute. It's from the North Indian. North parts of India and intermediate. So that was an amazing table we had.
Yes.
Announcements. I think there's Bill had one.
I am happy to announce the Bay Area Carnivorous Plant Society's annual show and sale. It's going to be Saturday, June 3rd, just a month away. It's at noon at St. Joseph Notre Dame High School in Alameda.
It is probably the biggest show. It is at least the biggest on the West Coast. It might be the biggest carnival plant show in the US.
Potentially the largest carnivorous plant show in the US. Yep. We also know there's going to be food and drinks, live music. It's free admission. And
auction and all sorts of things.
so, where'd you go, Al? There you go. So check that out. 1 month away. Alameda. Great. Thank you. Anything else? So yeah, so we'll say goodbye to everybody online. Thank you for joining us. Thanks everybody. Thanks everybody.